So for church administration, finance, and law, for my final presentation, I am a children's pastor, and so I want to address working maybe with other children's pastors and kids volunteers on some things that they should know. So today, a couple of the focus points that I'm going to hit on is mainly working with minors, including issues and liabilities that can come up with that, as well as for child abuse, and then also registered sex offenders and dealing with them. So, as I mentioned, with working with minors, there's different issues that can come up. So, I'm going to address child safety as well as liability, any previous court cases that have worked with children, as well as volunteers and important documents or plans that we should have in our children's ministry programs. So, addressing child safety. It is important for us to know that parents trust their kids with us, and it is our responsibility not to take that trust lightly. So, we have been given a task and a role in which that is up to us to do to the best of our ability. So, we really need to take this serious when working with children. Having a safe and secure environment is a must for all children's ministry programs, and that includes mainly limiting access to areas where children are present, really to only church staff and volunteers, as well as providing adequate procedures for any incidents. Really, this is just vital to any children's ministry program in terms of child safety. We should be taking into consideration every single aspect of a child's safety the second they are checked into our programs. So real quick, touching on liability, churches can greatly reduce their liability from not being negligent in their hiring process. So this comes from a secure vetting process that adheres to a lot of what other similar facilities do in our community. So that could be any schools, that could be any daycares, any form of where minors are present. We need to be looking at their standards, and we need to at least match that of what the rest of our community is doing. It is also important to have liability forms that are signed by children, by their parents every single year, and make sure we keep up-to-date information on our liability forms as well. It is also important to address the role of good supervision. A church may not be found negligent in a lawsuit, but we can be found negligent in our supervision. So it's important also to make sure we maintain a good supervision of children at all times. Some things we can learn from some previous court cases. There's a number of court cases that have happened against churches, and it's important to see that a lot of them were due to the church's negligence in their vetting process. So these cases just show us the importance of vetting our volunteers good, whether they have served the last 10 years or they're brand new. It doesn't matter. We need to vet everyone at the same level, and we need to do it well. So it's important when vetting our volunteers to take into consideration many different topics. Whether you're new to the position or you've been in the position for a while, you need to have up-to-date background information on every single person who is a volunteer for you. This just goes for really anything and everything that a person does in your program. They need to be vetted. So looking at new volunteers, it's very important to have a written application, and that written application needs to include any previous experience, why they want to volunteer, church membership, previous criminal activity, their identity, their address, and their contact information. All of this you need to have in a written form that every single one of them has to fill out. It is also important to really vet each and every single one of those references, and the importance on institutional references are very vital, especially if you don't know the person and it may be hard to get church members as a reference. Then having those previous institutional references really come in handy, and it's something that the courts really appreciate. Looking at documents and plans when working with kids, it's very important to see what documents you have in place. So actually the Assemblies of God provides liability forms and photo release forms for churches to modify for their own use. Again, it's important to have these up to date and have them. Since COVID-19, the importance of an illness form for having a written report for when a child is sick can also come in handy, but it's also extremely important to have a written record of any disciplinary actions as well as any incidents that involve a child injury. Having in these forms is incredibly beneficial. Creating and practicing plans for certain things is also beneficial. So that can include things that are common in your area, like fire evacuation, kidnapping, running, children who run away, building evacuation, things like that is important to have. Also, looking at child abuse, it's very important to know what your state mandates are and the requirements for working with child abuse, knowing when you have to tell others about that. And it's important to give that knowledge to all of your volunteers as well so that they're aware. Lastly, it's also really important when working with registered sex offenders and how the church can respond. You can respond with a limited attendance agreement, or you can respond with total exclusion. And it's important to know when is the best time for each of these scenarios. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you learned as much as I did from this.